Hey, welcome to another video. Bogdan Marzewski here. You're going to love this secret method that I'm going to share with you, how to create an equation of a line in y-intercept form, slope-intercept form. Let's dive in. So, quick sort of review that any equation of a line represents direction of the line, and there is either a given slope in direct form and y-intercept right away from the equation, or it is given in a hidden form that we'll talk about it in the next video. But this video is just the slope is provided in that form, and then you identify y-intercept. So that means the y-intercept is 0, positive or negative. Slope is 0, positive or negative. So those are the combinations that you have to be aware of. So point B represents where you cut the line on the y-axis. That's sort of the vertical line. You can cut it at any positive, negative value or 0. And when you combine those two parts, they form equation of a line. Y is equal mx plus b. So possibilities, right? Any line represents a pattern. The slope is a constant number that does not change for that particular line. The y-intercept also is fixed for that particular equation of a line, right? You can have positive slope when the line is increasing. The function is increasing. The direction of the line on the diagram shows moving up from left to right. We already know that, but if you're new here, welcome. You're just learning interesting things. Negative slope represents declining, decreasing linear function, and the 0 value shows a horizontal line. So those are the possibilities. And now we sort of explore further down. What is the B value? B represents a point on the y-axis where the line cuts through that y-axis. Every single line, which is a function, must have the B value. But sometimes that B value is 0. So this is the y-intercept, we call it because you cut through y-axis. And in this diagram, so line of the equation is represented by mx plus b, slope y-intercept form. If the line shows the direction going down, then we understand that if you knew the value of the slope, it would be negative in this case, right? In this diagram right here, we have a situation where the line cuts through the origin. So this is maybe the most fundamental equation of a line, the most basic that you can come up with, where the slope value must be given as any real number. If that was 0, then you would say y is equal to, 3, because the line will be horizontal going through that value along x-axis through y is equal to 3. So y is equal to mx plus b is the general form. Mx is the very specific sort of shorter form where b is equal to 0. Obviously, we understand that when you add 0, then your y-intercept is at 0. And this is a very specific point because this is the x and y intercept in one point, in one location. And slope-intercept form appears in many applications, right? When you do the word problems, you see, this is just an example, the rental cost, the application in economics, in science, and you will see those applications in the next videos. But for now, today, our focus is to create that equation, to be able to recognize what that equation represents, right? And the slope is like a rate of change. You're already familiar at this point. It says the speed, the direction of the line, the rate of change. And y-intercept in science economic application represents the original starting point, because we measure at the beginning where the x values would be 0. So that's sort of the specific sort of application where we take part of the straight line where the process starts with x is equal to 0. But in general mathematics, linear function, line has no beginning, no end. And thanks to Desmos, you have application where you can see, okay, the line on the Cartesian plane. 2x plus 3. If you see equation, then you say, okay, the slope is 2. You identify the value of the slope. The value of the y-intercept is shared here, 0 and 3. So you understand that the line is increasing with that rate 2, and then the y-intercept is 3. So there you go. This is sort of the application of that diagram. The blue line, -2/3. So that's the negative rate of change. That's a negative slope. The same y-intercept as an example. So you see blue and red line share the y-intercept, but they have different directions. So this is the only common point when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 3. And another line, negative slope, negative y-intercept. So the green line, the y-intercept is at -1, negative slope shows decreasing functions. Now, all of those lines here at some point would intersect x axis, and we'll show you in another video how to find those points. Today in this video, y is equal to mx plus b creation is our focus. So let's reconstruct starting with this. As an example, if you want to come up with this equation 2x plus 3 as an equation of a line, let's dissect how would you do it. First thing is that you have to have 2 points to start with, any 2 points, because any 2 points would generate one unique equation of a line. So, for example, if point P is provided, -2 and -1, point Q is provided as 2 and 7, and then there will be another point that also sits on that line. So those points form a line, but for the calculation purpose, we just take the given numbers for P and Q coordinates. So what's the benefit of having that? We can jump into slope calculation, right? The rise over run ratio, we label x1, y1, x2, y2. So you organize your work as you create the calculation, because it's easy to sort of control your steps. So organize your work, do the rise over run, calculate properly the numerator and the denominator. And the mistakes here people would make, because it says, the formula says y2 minus y1. So you're finding the difference. So you have to show that whatever the y number is minus another value of that y coordinate. So don't miss that particular step. This is very, very important, and very often people make mistake. 7 minus -1. Don't go 7 minus 1, because this is -1 for y1. Same thing at the bottom. You would not believe that a lot of people would do 2 minus 2 and the slope is undefined, because my calculation showed that. It says 2 minus, and you substitute -2. So just be careful about it. So 8/4, the slope is 2, boom. So now the very important step. If the slope is already determined, the value of the slope is given, then understanding the concept of a line, that slope between any 2 points on the line. So R is another randomly selected point that would be part of this line that we create an equation of. Point P is selected as an example. We could have selected Q or P, but no other than that. So R shows coordinates x and y. So random input with that specific output to build this equation that we want to build. So the direction is 2. So the slope, if I determine the slope between point R and point P, I have to use coordinates like so. Y, which is unknown, minus y1. Or if I use the other point, it would be minus y2. Divided by x minus x1, because this is provided, and y and x is not, is any other number. Then we conclude the following. Since the slope must be 2, so the line can be formed, so you must equate this ratio, which represents the slope of that same line, with that ratio. So when you have a number that is a whole number, obviously you know this is that over 1, that number. So 2 over 1 magically appears, which is 2. You can test it. 2 divided by 1 is 2. So solve this equation by simplifying it first. So this is the cross multiplication sort of strategy, right? You multiply diagonally when you have two ratios equated. So this is the proportion. So you can multiply top and the bottom and across this top and that bottom. So this is why you see y minus y1 times 1. Obviously, this is the same thing. And that step shows 2, and in brackets, x minus x1. At this point, you could use a substitution. I could have used a substitution here, but I didn't want that. I wanted to show in more general, more sort of classic mathematical form. So replace y1 with -1, replace x1 with -2. And the formula shows, so be careful, y minus that y1. So show it, minus -1 in brackets. On the opposite side, it shows x minus x1. So go with that minus and replace x1 with -2. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, quick sort of side note, this equation already is called slope point form as another form of equation of a line. Slope point form, the point is x1 and y1. Fixed point, given slope, boom, you can generate equation of a line. So by substitution, we get y plus 1 equals to 2x plus 4 when you do expand, right? 2 times x and 2 times positive 2, you get 4. Since we want to get mx plus b form, all we need to do is to combine positive 1 on this side with positive 4 on that side. So therefore, you get y is equal to x plus 3, bingo. This is the same equation that we wanted to generate equation of with given 2 points. So we have accomplished the goal. We went through the slope process. Then we created another slope ratio. We combined those two slopes together, simplifying, boom, done. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the next method that you may be familiar with is called mx plus b form. So if I want to get that, and I want to create in particular this equation of a line, I have to recall those 2 points, right? So they were already selected randomly, P and Q as our points. So the first business is find the slope. So let's go. Do the slope. Rise over run. So you do the substitution. You see 7 minus -1. Again, do not forget show minus and that y number in brackets. So important. Divided by 2 minus -2. Show it. Over 2 minus -2. So you get 8 over 4, and you know, because we did that already, so the slope is 2, bingo. Then you put back into that equation, right? You know that the form of this equation shows mx plus b. Since m is 2, then you're already halfway done. Y is equal to 2 times x plus b, plus that y-intercept that we need to find. So since P or Q are fixed point and they belong to that line, you are allowed to use either coordinates of point P or either coordinates of point Q. It doesn't matter. I'm going to choose Q this time because I use P for the other example. So 2 goes in place for X right here, and 7 goes where the letter Y is. So now you have an equation with 7 equals 2 times 2 plus B. Boom. Right? Substitution. 7 and 2 for X. So the left side is 7, nothing to be done with that. 4 is 2 times 2. So the question is now, how much is B? When the left side is 7 and the right side is 4 plus B. So B must be 3. And you know it is 3 because you did that, and that fits perfectly. So there you go. We have equation of a line in the form mx plus b. So hopefully this makes sense now. Now we have two different methods, two secret weapons, if you will, and you can create any equation of a line using that method. Thanks for watching, but before we go, do this practice question. Don't be lazy. Share this video. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.